When I try to explain to people that I accidentally fell into the world of TV and film production, it's usually met with an empathetic laugh. But I did, literally. I grew up in a small town in East Ayrshire, and from a young age, I always knew that I wanted to be part of the creative industry. In sixth year, I found a passion for photography, and at the time, it seemed like the only feasible way to make money as a creative. So I went with it. I wanted to be a music photographer, and I wanted to travel the world and photograph the biggest names in music. And I did for a little while. It was mostly my friends' bands, and it was the travel mostly consisted of a bus going up and down from Glasgow, but I loved it. Yet I always had a craving to push myself more. I wanted to make a project, an independent project that just blew up. I just didn't know what it was yet. Then a friend of mine sent a Facebook post. The BBC were setting up a new online platform and they wanted young creatives to make the content for it. And I jumped at this opportunity. I could pitch them my ideas and get paid to make it. That's technically being a real artist. So I applied, they accepted, and I became an independent photographer for BBC The Social's Instagram. A few years later, I was on Mull Music. I was at Mull Music Festival. I carried a little too high and I ended up breaking my foot in two places. Now, the bouncer tried to get me into the nearest medical van. However, I told him to go to the nearest bar and get me the strongest drink he could find. By the Monday, these drinks weren't working very well, and I went back to Glasgow to face a furious mother who chucked me into the nearest hospital. And I came walking back out again, very sheepishly, with a moon boot on and 6 weeks' worth of shoots cancelled. 2 weeks into this rest, I was losing my mind. I emailed my producer and I asked her if there was any work possible for me to do for her. She replied that they were actually looking for video content and would I be up for making a video. Now, at this point, I'd never made a video. I'd never acted, I'd never written a script, I'd never filmed anything. I was used to being behind the camera. And she gave me a piece of advice that stuck with me for the last 6 years. Just write about what you know. And that's what I did. And then I got my £25 lighting kit, I stole my brother's clothes, and I got a wooden plank and I sat in my room and I made my first video, What Not to Say to Bartenders. Now, I expected this video to get a few hundred views and get laughed at in the village for the next couple of weeks, but it went viral. In less than 48 hours, it had hit over 1 million views and it was getting shared worldwide. Today, across all online platforms, my videos have got well over 12 million views, and I find myself pursuing a career in TV and film and comedy, all because of a broken foot. Now, I've been given a vast amount of opportunity in the last 4 years, and in turn, this has just helped my knowledge and experience of the industry grow. I rely on being self-taught, so at any point that I can be on a production, I will jump on that chance. I'm addicted to it. And then all of a sudden it was halted by coronavirus and lockdown. At first, I was more than happy about this. I could work on that script idea I had for 6 months, or I could just finish off that risk assessment I'd been avoiding for 2 weeks. Then things started getting weary. I didn't have any human contact. I lived alone. And I only really said good morning to the bin men on Wednesdays. I was getting tired. So I would fling myself into writing challenges and send off audition tapes and just constantly keep myself busy and posting online saying, look, I'm doing so great. I've made this, I've done that. Isn't this fantastic? But it wasn't fantastic. And I wasn't doing great. As production kept getting pushed back further and further, I found myself feeling pointless. And I went to quite a dark place. Our mental health has always been an important topic. And as the years have gone by, the taboo about it being discussed has disintegrated. But with coronavirus and lockdown, we found a new wave of anxiety, of depression, of bereavement, of loneliness crashing into our communities. And whether it was a personal experience or we've seen our closest, our nearest and dearest be affected, it's definitely taken on a new toll. But what I also saw was how dependent people were becoming on the creative industry to just break through a little light on a bad day, whether it was trying a new book or a new film, listening to new music, trying a new recipe, all the way to watching videos of a professional musician playing for the streets, for the postman to be dressing up as different characters, to drop off an Amazon package, for neighbours swapping recipes of whipped coffee and banana bread. The world was becoming more reliant on the creative industry to just distract them from this reality. And yet our government didn't want to recognise this. Yes, they clapped along with us for the NHS. They thanked us for any small donation to any charity, and they praised us on our community spirit. And yet a small poster of a young ballet dancer who was unaware of her future in cyber just screamed the truth as to how they really saw the creative industry. And the outrage that followed this poster just proved how many people were reliant on the creative industry as a lifestyle, as an income, or just simply a support mechanism. Why was our government turning around and basically saying to us that our dreams of having a successful career in something that we are passionate for was unrealistic, that we should probably go and get real jobs? The amount of creatives I know that are holding down 2 or more jobs just to be financially stable to pursue their creative career is unimaginable. A government should support, a government should inspire, and a government should recognise that without a creative industry, there is no big ideas, there is no entertainment, and there is no communication. And that is exactly what everyone needed in a lockdown this year. And we've all discovered that. I remember discussing this with a neighbour. Now, I've been in this building for just under 2 years now. And before lockdown, I'd never spoken to a single neighbour. A brief hello on the staircase, but that was as far as it went. And then one day I was outside reading my book, and my neighbour Tam came down to do some gardening, and we sparked up conversation. We talked about ourselves, our family, our friends, and how we were dealing with such a nervous future. We talked about our interests and conspiracy theories and what our favourite drink was. And then before I knew it, this conversation started to become routine. Every afternoon we would go out and we would chat for a couple of hours and distract ourselves. And as the summer days got longer and they got warmer, more people started coming out just to hang up the washing or put the bins out or just to taste a wee bit of freedom that we were allowed. And we convinced people to stay out a little longer, to join into our conversation. And before I knew it, every day before lunchtime, my entire tenement building would be sitting out in the back, having conversation and enjoying each other's company. Socially distanced, of course. Now, I was easily the youngest person there, and I was wrapped up in stories of an old Glasgow, of an old community, of the tenement buildings and the buzz around them. You could walk into any home and be welcomed with a cup of tea. You could give a shopping list and a penny to a child and send them off to the shops. They would be 5 years old. Just a different world. And slowly I began to feel inspired again. And I went and achieved one of my all-time goals. I independently made my first short film. And when I say independently, I wrote it, I acted, I filmed, I did the sound, I edited, I did production for it, all of it, every aspect. It's now circulating the film festival circuit and it has already won a couple of awards. The inspiration behind this film was a pointer at me and how I was dealing with lockdown. Simply that I cannot find perfection, but I can find happiness. And this happiness will infect everyone else around me. And then I found myself flinging my ideas into other aspects of the creative industry. I studied a bit of theatre and I looked at how one object can create an entire environment. I looked at the female voices in the creative industry, especially in comedy, and how I can help make those voices louder. I watched my friends create music, albums, paintings, art shows, performances, sessions, and all of these are still running successfully a year later. The talent that was blooming across the digital world was inspiring. A lot of people were grabbing at ideas that they weren't able to before because the reality of life got in the way, and they were able to develop it and form it into a real thing that they can show off, and they were proud to show it off. The creative industries have proved that they can keep going even in the toughest of times. Even now, I have successfully made one short film, one music video, and I'm already planning to be on multiple production sets in the next few months under strict COVID restrictions. And this is the best part, is that you can't shut us up. The creative industries will always be there. People need escapism. People need some way to distract themselves from reality. And the creative industries will always be there to do that. It can't be ignored. It won't be ignored. And it will be staying here for as long as humanity will. Thank you very much. Oh no, I forgot to press stop.